some of you can share what you have discussed.
Yes, I can search.
Professor is sharing.
Okay, I think values are those which the self is comfortable with.
The self is comfortable.
Yes, I am comfortable with something which I value in my life, in my everything. Now, any kind of discomfort I am having by seeing something, doing something, watching something, that means this is not fitting with my values which
Value
I
system.
So, values are those which the self is comfortable with. Now, when I was discussing with him, he said that I want to tickle you. This is my comfort zone. It is not your comfort zone. So, how will you explain that? So, I say, to tickling others is your values, you are comfortable with. But to get tickled is not my values. So I don't want to be. So when it comes to spreading of values or interaction with two persons or in society, then you have to see the societal comfort zone also. In society, one person marry 5 ladies, one gent. Society is comfortable with. Pandavas were comfortable with that. So it is their value system. But in that family's value system, but society did not accept it. So values are those which the self is comfortable with, and the self with which they are comfortable differ from self to self, society to society. I am not, if I do right or wrong, then I am going to value judgment. I am not going into value judgment. I am going to define values. Okay? The second or the first question?
The first question.
Okay.
Madam, a value can be looked at as an individual framework for conduct of a person in a society, and this is something which is to a certain extent individualistic and to a certain extent collective aspect. So it could differ from individual to individual, but then it gives you a framework for functioning in a society with certain norms and certain
Yes.
conditions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think values are certain personality traits which determine interpersonal relationships.
Personality traits that define interpersonal relationships. Okay.
I totally agree with both of them. So my personal view is it is the attitude or the nature. Am I audible?
Yeah.
I hope I am audible.
Yeah, you are audible. Yes.
So I believe it is the attitude or the nature of a self towards something which can be of importance to either me or to the others. So it can be an individualistic approach or a group approach, I guess.
Okay.
So this is my personal view.
Okay. One more point I want to add, that it will not be harmful in both ways. Suppose I am sitting here, so maybe my thought that may harm myself, like in respect of morality, dignity and personality.
Right.
Okay. It is in both ways. Either that means I am thinking such vulgar things that may harm my mind slowly, but that is not visible or audible to the audience.
Correct.
That is also be considerable.
Here, so we have listed 3 things. 3 members are there. First one is good practices for sustainable coexistence. Second one is ability to decide the right and wrong things,
Right.
and the ethics to live in a society. So these are the values we think.
These form values.
Yes, yes.
For the second question, anybody can share?
Hello. Second question is the primary importance of institution and organizations. Of course, it varies from which institutions they are coming and what are the goal of the institution. So I worked in a premier institution in Delhi, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Our symbol, there to reach Brahma. Brahma means ultimate, absolute, through body. But what are Sarira Khanamadham? To reach Brahma. Our main aim should be reach the ultimate or absolute, but our aim is to Sharir, means whatever patient comes to her, and it was imbibed in our system once in the day I joined there, that each patient is very valuable to us, because why patient comes to hospital? Nobody comes when they're in comfort. When they're coming to hospital in a distress, when the patient's coming to you as a distress, or all value should be, all our concern should be there, except of course in hospital one department, obstetrics there comes for defined reason, they get a new for that. Otherwise, everybody who enters in hospital is a stress. So our main is to be a good doctor, a compassionate doctor, not only for the patient, and skillful. Whatever subject you are taking, there are so many departments, so you should be absolutely skillful on that. So our organizations, our training, all those things on that basis. So that is my view for All India Institute in my department.
Thank you, madam. You have given the value system of a medical institute.
Definitely.
But if I answer, she has already told about the medical institute.
Yes.
But if I respond to your question, what values are given primary importance in your institution, and I mean in any institution?
Yeah, any institution.
Any institution. First, I will give importance to professionalism.
Professionalism.
Whether I am a doctor in a medical doctor or I am an engineer there, and professionalism includes all other sub-values. See, the professionalism includes many things which we talk about values. So one is professionalism. Second is try to become holistic as much as you can. Try to become holistic as much as you can in your institution. Third is that we are all lifelong learner. We are all lifelong learner. So these three primary things I will give importance if I organize an institution.
Anybody else?
Yes. In my institution, if I talk about, mostly they talk about discipline, which includes punctuality also, and updation of knowledge, continuously on learning, and good behavior.
Good behavior.
And what I would desire as values, empathy and compassion, integrity or honesty, and what we had written, gratitude.
Gratitude.
That is called thankfulness.
Anybody else?
We have listed
It's working.
First of all, there is a little difficulty in understanding what is professionalism and what is values. Values are non-functional requirements majority of the times, and professionalism meets the functional requirements, what I suppose. So I do not know whether we have to mix them or not. And what we are giving concentration in most of the education institutions is, as sir said, to reach professionalism, to study more, to hard work. So related to that itself, we have listed the things. So practice to become good human beings. It is there in vision and mission, and some practices we do and all these things. And hard working to face the challenges. We give them a lot of assignments and these kind of things. Preparing them to face real world, or to face failures or something like that. But if you see from the values point of view, mostly we are not practicing any good values in in the organization.
In the sense, explicitly.
Yes, yes.
You mean?
Yes.
Implicitly, something is there.
Yes.
But explicitly focusing on values and then inculcating them, that
It
doesn't.
is not part of the curriculum.
It's not part of the
It is not. There is no evaluation
Mechanism
of
to
that.
do that.
There is no mechanism to evaluate.
Right. Anybody else wants to add?
We are from the Albag Educational Institute, and what the Albag teaches us, or what it follows, is majorly service. The value that is mostly taught us.
Service
or
to
with-
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
service without expecting anything in return.
Like Karma Yoga,
Yes, and unity, cooperation, and integrity,
integrity.
and also accountability.
Accountability.
You are supposed to take responsibility of what your deeds are.
Yes.
So this is what values. These are the values that our institute or the Albag teaches us, and we practice it on a daily basis. So it's kind of imbibed in us when we are already attached to that institute. So
Yes. So it means
it-
that
yeah.
the values are specifically focused on, and there's also a mechanism to practice those
Yes,
values.
yes.
So that there is a visible behavioral change in the students towards those values.
Absolutely.
Okay. So in fact, in these different sessions that both of us will be addressing, we'll also be looking at how do we actually bring those behavioral changes, because all of us as teachers, most of us are teachers here, all of us want that behavioral change in our students, or in fact even amongst ourselves. Like somebody was pointing, we need to embody those values before we can inculcate in the students. So how do we embody those values? And we'll be looking at some tools which will help us to do that, not just in ourselves but also in the society that is concerned.
If I may,
Sure.
I would like to add a small piece. I think for me, purpose is greater than value. So value is a very clear set of tools that will help me achieve my purpose. The fundamental thing, for me at least, is what is the purpose for which I'm here? And then how does value support that purpose? So value in itself, without realizing purpose, can be a challenge, in my opinion.
I frequently travel in the Himalayas, and once during one such travel, the Himalayas are rather youngish in geological time, about a few 100 million years old, maybe, compared to
other mountain
billions of years of Earth. Yeah, for example, Western Ghats are much older than Himalayas. So what used to happen, what happens is when it rains, there would be mud, there would be rock, the mud loosens and the rocks would roll down. And in one such landslide, we were stuck in a traffic jam for many hours together. And everyone in the bus, everywhere else, it's like a lot of uncertainty. When would the traffic get cleared? When would the road get cleared? And when would we be able to reach our destination? Some were going up, some were going down, some had trains, flights to catch, so much uncertainty. And that caused a lot of trauma. And people were not able to focus. Extreme trauma, you can imagine, extreme suffering. And through all this, I was silently observing all of this happening, and I was observing an old lady who was working with the stones to clear the passage. She was apparently employed by the government or the Border Roads Organization to clear the passage so that the other yatris could travel forth. I was observing that she was just going on patiently under the sun. We are in the comfort of the shade, the bus. Under the sun, she was just going on, and in a manner which to me appeared very impressive. Looking at everyone else, this was in huge contrast to everybody's response. So I was inspired to go and talk to her. So I went and asked her, Maji, aap kahan se hain? I asked her, mother, where are you from? She said, I'm from a nearby village. अब कब से ये करती आ रही हैं? You know, from when have you been doing this? मैं तो बचपन से करती आ रही हूँ. You know, from childhood I have been doing this. आप ये क्यों करती हैं? Why are you doing this? She simply looked at me and said, so that you can reach back home safely and be happy. This to me is the highest value. Now we are interested in understanding this and how to, look at education as a value creation process. What is the value which we wish to create? For ourselves, as she rightly pointed out, for ourselves, for society, for everybody around us. What that unpad, gawar old lady, mostly illiterate, should not know A, B, C, D. But to me, she is very highly learned, extremely knowledgeable, because she is able to map her actions to someone she just does not know, to my benefit. You should be happy. I am doing this so that you can reach back safe and be happy. As Madam rightly pointed out, even doctors do that. And there are engineers who have that mindset. There are people from all professions, teachers, obviously, because we know we are creating value for our children, for our students. This, how can we embody it in a rigorous intellectual framework? That is also useful to understand. In the Indian system, there are frameworks available to understand this in a rigorous manner. To introduce these frameworks in that light so that we can utilize it, it's called Purushartha. Purushartha means the purpose of a human life. What am I here for? Everyone gets this question. It's a very intelligent question to have. But the exploration of this question need not be traumatic if we have proper tools and frameworks to address it in a meaningful, clear manner. Otherwise, this question itself can be hugely traumatic. We have encountered more than 40,000 youth and students in our various sessions. And one of the things that comes to the fore, a key question is, I'm bored. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a valid phenomenon that many youth encounter. But many of us might just say, it's all in the mind, don't worry, just wish it away. But this cannot be wished away. It's so prevalent, it's almost of an epidemic, proportions. It's so prevalent. I'm bored. Why should I wake up in the morning? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And young people suffer through this episodes. At the end of it, if there is an end, do they have clarity?
No, sir.
Not exactly. That's where we need clear educational work, educational frameworks, intellectual frameworks, rigorous academic rigor to bring into such questions as well. And this is not a new question. So that's what is termed as the Purushartha in the Indian tradition. What gives artha, what gives meaning, purpose to my life as a human being? And there are 4 broad categories that emerge. Now this lady in question, this old lady that I was interacting with, she could have answered, I asked her a very simple question. Why are you doing what you're doing? I have asked this to a lot of people. very successful professionals, even CEOs, MDs of companies, and so on. When I ask this question, every answer, is it valid?
Yes.
Every answer is valid.
Yes. Subjective.
It's subjective phenomenon. Every answer is valid. No answer can be dismissed as in case she said,
That's my job.
Say-
That's my job. That's my job.
that's my job, I'm just doing my job. She could have said that. Would that have been valid?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Definitely yes. First response could have been, chal, hut,
अपना काम है.
अपना काम कर. काम करने दे. Let me do my job. Why are you disturbing me? Many of us can get very irritated,
Yes.
can have condescending attitudes towards someone whom we serve. It's very easy to get, especially given the complexity of the Indian context. There is time crunch, there is resource crunch. Under such a crunch situation, what are the values that you embody, that you choose to embody? Because it's a choice. Can we make that choice? Can that be an informed choice? That is very critical to understand. So she could have responded, "Arey chal hut." She did not say that. She could have said, "This government tang karte hain. Rules pressurize karte hain. The organization is pressurizing me to do this. I'm not interested, but I have no other go." She could have said that. Would that be a valid response?
Yes.
Definitely yes. She could have said, "बच्चे हैं, पोते हैं.
पालना है. कोई काम नहीं करता. कोई और काम
I have
नहीं
to, feed my children, my grandchildren. I have to work for them. I am the only working man." She could have said that. Did she say that? No. Very valid response. She chose to say instead, "You should be happy. You should reach back safe, and hence, I'm doing what I'm doing." This, in the Indian context, is called dharma. Grih means to sustain. What is my role in the larger scheme of things? When we see that explicitly, do we have the neuroscientific basis to establish this? We should be getting there. Because this is clearly seen in experience. Who we consider as role models in society, in organizations, are those who choose to actually express themselves with such high value system. And this is a value process. They are creating value for themselves. Are they creating value for themselves? Yes. Altruism does not mean that you are left out.
Yes.
But they are also creating value for those around them, explicitly also, not just implicit. Yes, please.
So you shared an example that it depends on what your own perspective is to your own work, which can actually lead to a more satisfying work experience. Here I also feel that it also is perspective of the second person who's receiving, because then the whole appreciation of the work takes a new dimension. For example, if somebody is working for you, it could be I'm paying him and I'm getting my work done. Full stop. The other is my life is getting much better because of that person. So the values, I think, is a twofold thing.
Yes, that's a beautiful point. That's where I think someone mentioned gratitude, empathy, compassion. No, gratitude. Now, if it is there in the educational process, will everyone start appreciating what these fundamental values are? Ignorance can cause a lot of hardship. Even for those who wish to embody values, it can cause hardship to them. Because of prevalent education, when you don't appreciate good engineering skill, for example, would it cause hardship? Yes, because those who are really skilled would not be appreciated. Nobody would value their value. They are valuable, but nobody would see that as value enough. So even that is a perception, that's informed judgment. That's where ignorance can cause a lot of hardship. And knowledge about these value processes, in fact, that's the whole idea of science, because it's about the knowledge of the process itself. How do we create value? How do we embody value in the individual, in the organization, in the society, in the world at large? Okay. At all these levels. Just to address that specific aspect, before we move forward. Appreciation is a key value. Yes, that's very true. But what you appreciate for, that's also something to look for. See, if I may share an anecdote from my life, there was a teacher who came up dressed well. And everybody appreciated. Wow, you look so good. Prim and proper. And that person felt very happy. Now that is restricted in time and space. The next day you do it, will everyone appreciate the same way? Maybe, may not be. So that is at one level. Another level is we do a good job. We are thorough in our understanding, and we display that, and our students get enlightened in the sense of that knowledge, that domain, and that they appreciate. Would that make you feel good? Yes, definitely yes. Should that make you feel good? Yes. There's nothing wrong with that. And we work further, not just in the domain, but in the sense of deeper human values, a deep sense of connect. Compassion, empathy, kindness are such fundamental values. When we connect so deep, then we have had experience in our society where we go back to our teachers, such teachers who have really shown such value process in our hearts. We really respect them. Not just domain experts, but those who have displayed these aspects as well. We go back to them and we wish well for them. We appreciate them for the role that they have played in our lives. So we are talking of multiple levels of the value hierarchy. All of these become important to address. One not negating the other. Need not be this versus that. That's again a mindset. So as we are discussing, as we saw in the example, if that old lady had mentioned, hey, I'm stuck, I'm feeling miserable, and you're asking me this question, wrong time, wrong place, get lost. Even that displays a certain value process. A behavior, a response displays an underlying value process which is not right or wrong. We are not discussing exactly binaries, but a full spectrum. Whatever we bring to the room, it's not in terms of binaries, it's a full spectrum. Appreciating that is very critical. So this is more an open attitude discussion that we are engaging in. The 5 days, we would have that from diverse perspectives. And what is the use of such an approach? When we approach the same thing from multiple angles, actually the depth of perception becomes much better. In fact, even, for example, in neurosciences, the very way we perceive 3D is because of difference of physical perspective. This eye does not perceive the exact same thing as this eye. And that gives us a depth perception. Otherwise, we would be stuck with a 2D reality. And here, imagine physical world is this much complex. How much more complex will be the inner reality, where all of us come from diverse backgrounds. These are called samskaras. Now, how can we reliably work with these? What categories can emerge? How can we intellectually understand it and reliably traverse this ground? Learn, self-navigate. learn to self-navigate and teach our students as well how to self-navigate through the complex terrain of life. And that is a useful, very useful thing to invest in. If we look at education as a process of value creation. Why study, why invest our time and energy in learning a subject? It's fundamentally value creation. If we narrowly define it as just value creation for myself, or don't even define it that way, then we are completely caught unaware. While if we define it consciously as value creation, not just for me, but in an expansive way, value creation for everybody, then that leads to a very robust society and very robust world, where there is peace, harmony. All these things are very much necessary to be invested in. It's not automatic. It is what we understand, we embody in our personal lives. Towards this, I remember one episode. I was traveling by second class compartment in train. Second class compartment is not second sleeper. The general unreserved compartment. It was very crowded, extremely crowded. I got a space to squeeze in a seat where about 10 of us were sitting. And through the crowd, a very shabby girl whose nose was flowing, dirt all over, she came in. She was begging. My heart was moved, but I was observing, Most people's response was, it was like, they just did not want her presence near them.
Disgust.
Because she was so dirty. And there was no space to move also. So obviously everyone was constrained, but the response was visible. Near me there was a old man sitting, clean white and white, with a japamala. He was just doing japa. He was very calm, collected. Everyone was agitated, but he was calm, collected. He was just still. And the girl came near, and everybody was squirming. Some were just throwing coins at her so that she would not come near. Not judging their response. She came near and looked at this old man in clean white and white. She was like absolutely dirty. She came, touched him, and asked for money. He opened his eyes and smiled beautifully at her. That smile I still remember. I've seen very few people smile like that. A genuine smile. He looked at her, and he did the most shocking thing that anybody could imagine. He just hugged her. She was dirty, and he was wearing clean white, and he hugged her. And he said, "Beti, child, I will not give you money. You have 2 hands, 2 legs. I want you to be strong." He was very firm. He did not mince words, but very sweet. I want you to be strong. When you grow up, you should stand on your own legs and help everybody. This made a deep impact in the child that after that she did not ask anybody. She just walked out. See, this made a deep impact, I'm sure, not just in my mind, but in everybody who was observing. This also represents a value process. Decoding it, understanding it, using current sciences, frameworks, All of these are very, very useful. Because using intellectual frameworks, we have clear territory. We can chart our path much better than it was if it were just vague. Examples, anecdotes are very much useful, but definitely we are interested in these 5 days to look at rigorous intellectual frameworks. Those are very useful to help chart the territory. Where should we proceed? How should we proceed? Again, there can be differences of approaches, differences of viewpoints. What we choose to focus on, someone else might choose to focus on a different aspect. This, when I ask students, why are you here in college? I've seen that many people respond, I'm here because my parents told so, especially in the Indian context. Parents told so. A friend got admission to this, so I'm here. I did not get admitted anywhere else, so I'm here. These are also valid responses.
Yes.
Very valid.
Very universal.
Unfortunately, universal. Universal in the Indian context. Okay, let's not universalize it beyond that. We don't know. But यहाँ पे, you know,
Very common.
valid response. Very common. Why? Because if we understand the process, as children, when we grow up, we look towards the elders' appreciation for whatever we do. Now, many parents call that attention seeking, which is not wrong, which is a very important process of validation. Seeking validation for our behavior, our actions. Over a period of time, we develop the capability to be able to handle it. We self-validate. Now that is the course that we wish to set. If that can be captured in a framework, that is the framework of the Purushartha. Dharma, Artha, Kama. Where initially it could just be driven, it could also be unconscious. Someone else set it. I don't know, I don't care. I'm stuck here. I feel miserable, I feel stuck. And I blame society for what I'm going through. That does not help us display value, strong value process, strong value orientation. Well, I believe, okay, I'm interested in it, I desire it, so I'm doing it. I'm enjoying, I'm having fun. That's a certain value process called karma. It can be towards, okay, I'll get a good job, I'll earn good fame, name, status and prestige in society. That is artha, wealth. Artha means wealth. What I perceive as wealth. Towards that I work, which is not wrong. But the stabilizing factor is where, as they beautifully pointed out, I want to tickle, but I don't want to be tickled. When we realize there are multiple viewpoints, then how do we arrive at a norm which works equally well for everybody? That's a stabilizing influence of dharma, where we see my actions in the larger context. How does it work? It's an active process. That's where generally, you know, as Professor Rahul beautifully put it, it's not just moral education or moral instruction. Hey, speak the truth. Speak the truth. Why should I speak the truth? Under what circumstances? Well, all of these come to the fore. Speak the truth, okay, but what is meant by the truth? Will it affect me? Will I be at the receiving end at some point? All of these need to be considered, right? And that's where, if ground conditions are created in such a manner, where we can self-discover for ourselves. Because everybody, including children, are intelligent. They are creating, they are understanding reality in their own light. That light of understanding, how do we encourage them to participate in it vigorously, grow that understanding, imbibe value process because they see value in it, and that leads us to what Professor Rahul beautifully put as value of values. How do we help them see the value of a value? Otherwise, what if I'm not convinced about the value of that value? I don't care whether I copy or not. I don't care whether I speak the truth or not. I don't care if that child, that dirty child, I don't care. Because whether I act this way or that way, does it affect me? Not if I'm able to perceive it that way. That depth of perception. How do I invest in it and grow it actively? Because it needs to be invested in. It's not automatic. Now, the process of value creation is not automatic, and hence we are looking at it from multiple dimensions, not just as a moralistic instruction. A moral instruction where you say, speak the truth. No, it need not be. Then it might almost have the reverse effect. We could have that. So that's where what we have tried doing as part of this workshop is having such discussions and having diverse kinds of experts from diverse lines of inquiry coming and sharing their insights with us so that we can inform ourselves better. How do we grow our own theories better? Because our understanding helps us actionate better. It's investing in our own growth process, our own understanding, so that we carry forward, we embody that. If we can draw a physical, correlate to this, it's like the process of learning to walk. We are lying like this as infants. Now the challenge is to walk because others around us are walking. How would you do that? What do you think would be the subliminal process that goes on to actually take a step forward? Because taking a step forward is celebrated in the Indian tradition. Everyone calls, hey, first step my child has taken. It's like it calls for celebration. It's considered such an important development. What would be the background process involved in just taking one step, going from this? What do you think?
Crawling.
Crawling, yes. First you'll need to, before crawling, turn upside down. Put your head up. Start crawling. Standing up. With support.
Maybe we should leave now. This guy will continue.
This is what is visible at the outer level. What about even physical processes that need to go in for you to take one step? Wanting to take a step, that is at the core of all of this. A desire. That child has to desire that it needs to take one step. How to inculcate that desire is very, very part of an educational process or a educational milieu. Not just organized education, even at home or anywhere. How do you invest in cultivating that desire? Because that child, that infant needs to see, yes, I want to take a step. If that desire were not there, what would happen? We have all the processes in place, but the desire is not there. Why do it? No? Can we force desire? We can motivate, we can invest in it, we can invest in creating the milieu where such desires spring. Why should I be good? Why should I be truthful? Why should I have integrity, honesty? All of this is fundamentally tied to one's own desire to be good, to do good. It's not just forced. And after which comes processes, neuronal processes, somatosensory complex, the idea of space, all the neuronal pathways that are required, the musculature, all of that is required to be able to take a step. That's the complex process that follows, but the primary thing is desire, the motivation.